Yes.
Hello. So, kind of has to do with occupying until you come, and also the vaccine. As far as this moves on, because my husband and I are not. My husband works for a state-run deaf school, and he also is a deaf pastor at our church, and he's brought many kids to the Lord. He works in the dorms there, and as this moves on, and possibly doesn't work there, he's not going to have the opportunity to share the Lord with these people. At what point and how do we, at what point do we say, I'm going to take it because of ministry purposes, and to not, because I'm thinking these Christians, eventually Satan's going to use it to bench us all, and so that we're not able to go out and really preach the word. So at what point do we say, I got to trust the Lord and do this in order to continue to shine his light? Do you guys understand what I'm...
Yeah. Understand.
Man, can I jump in real quick?
You go for it.
Compromise is never blessed by God. Half obedience is still disobedience. And if you want an example of that, look at King Saul. He had very strict orders from God. You get out there and you take care of it and you wipe it all out. He didn't. And he tried to rationalize it. Well, it's good for ministry. I'm just keeping the animals behind. We're going to go sacrifice. And then, of course, what's the prophet say? What's that bleating I hear in my ears? Right? The sound of your disobedience. And he lost his kingship. Right? And he lost his family. He lost it all. And yet he thought, by compromising, I'm doing a good thing for God. I'll just tell you this. I don't know how we could compromise as Christians knowing that the vaccines contain ingredients that are not only basically playing Russian roulette. And last time I see scripturally, flirting with basically self-murder, suicide, is not an option for the Christian, number one. Number two, it could have debilitating effects, which now have fun trying to do ministry when you're completely debilitated or paralyzed and all the other horrible things that are going on. Also, these are vaccines by their very nature, as Elon Musk admits on tape. The mRNA vaccines are basically, he dumbs it down for the audience, he says, is a man-made computer code to alter your computer code, your DNA. They admit that it alters you. So why would you go along with something that alters God's design, even our own bodies, when we're created in his image and they have all these horrible side effects? And then the vaccines, if you say, well, it's not the mRNA, Johnson, they got murdered baby body parts in them. So morally, how is that even? And here's my point. Yeah, maybe you're going to lose your job or whatever, but can I tell you something? God blesses obedience. And all that means is he's going to make a way when there seems to be no way, or he's just going to move you on to another ministry. But he'll never bless compromise. Ever.
Let me add something to that. It will be a temptation. So if you go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, the promise in any temptation is that he provides a way of escape. So if you're ever going to get up against that wall, and this is the temptation, you have promises in Scripture saying, I will provide the way of escape. But let me add that the way of escape may not be at the same economic level that you were used to. That's what I think a lot of people have to understand. Let me give you an illustration with the Israelites at the Red Sea. They were provided a way of escape through the Red Sea, no doubt about that. But they left Egypt and they went where? To the wilderness. That was a pretty harsh condition. So they left Egypt for the harsh conditions. But what did they have? They were free. They weren't slaves anymore. But the principle is he'll provide that way of escape, but it's not going to be on probably the same parallel level. It will probably be less. You'll probably have to make less. You'll have to do a different ministry and just adapt to the new situation. But he is faithful. He will provide a way of escape if you allow him to.
Yeah, thank you. I'll add another thing too. I've been warning Christians for the last couple of years, and the phrase I use is you have to get it out of your mind, church, what I call convenience Christianity. Get it out of your head, right? Understand the days that we live in. And a lot of the times I'm referring to Christians saying, I just can't find a healthy church. And And, you could ask me 15 years ago, people that say that says, I don't go to church because I can't find something. I say, well, you're being lazy or irresponsible. You need to get out there and beat the streets and pray and God will lead you. Hey, today, have fun with that. I think a lot of people, they're in straits. But I still tell them there's still no excuse. There's still faithful shepherds. You're looking at these guys here. There's still faithful shepherds, even in the state of California, right? Hello. And, Nevada's pretty bad too. But anyway, But that will preach. So guess what? Get rid of this idea that it used to be back in the day, well, if I can't find a church, I'll just go 5 minutes down this route and I'll find this one. Those days are gone. Right. So get rid of this mindset, this convenience Christianity, that it's going to come easy. Those days aren't coming back. And in the instance of a healthy church, they're still out there. You either have to listen, drive, or move. I had one guy called me up a couple years ago, and we have an internship program. I've done that everywhere I pastored, training men for ministry, and like the Paul, Timothy, Titus scenario. And he said, Pastor Billy, man, he says, I so want to come down there. I want to get in the internship program. I feel God's called me to ministry. I says, all right, you're going to be here next week? And he wasn't expecting me to challenge him that bluntly. But you know what he said? He said, man, I know this is what God's called me to do. He said, but, and there's your problem. But the job I work at if I just got 7 more years and I'll be vested, and I'm going, you could be dead tomorrow. And what did Jesus say to the rich young ruler and all those other people that gave him excuses? You let the dead bury their dead. You come follow me. And so we need to get back to that. We need to get back to get rid of this convenience Christianity. And the same thing with, guess what? You're going to have to make some tough decisions. Like Pastor Brandon says, you may not be able to live at the same economic level. Oh, well. Right? And put it in perspective. Pastor Richard Wurmbrand, who was the president of Voice of the Martyrs. And I'll never forget, he was telling the account when he came over here to America, and he was speaking to the church at an event, and he was talking about what was going on in the underground church there and the people being persecuted, the Christians and whatever. And at that time in America, the response from the audience, Christians, was basically, Pastor Wurmbrand, why is it that we don't experience that kind of persecution here in America? Is it because of our Bill of Rights and the Constitution, or just our Americana way of life that we wouldn't put up with that kind of tyranny? And he looked at the audience and he says, you guys have something worse than communism here. You have consumerism, materialism. And that is what I think that the church is not ready to give up.